I hope you're enjoying this Tele-pilot introduction DVD. As you see, I've been producing Tele-pilots since 1988. I am packing as much as I can into this promotion. A couple of changes since 1988 is the advent of fully digital picture and sound. Also, the change from VHS tape format to the digital versatile disc or DVD. Thank you for your interest in my series. On completion of this DVD, do check out www.yachttuition.co.uk, where most of any further questions you may have will be answered. Don't hesitate to email or telephone if I can help further. Meanwhile, I look forward to welcoming you aboard my comprehensive pilotage and marine tuition series. I spent the rest of the afternoon considering if my walks were going to last out. I'm only on the third day, and if you'll excuse the pun, they are looking a bit ropey. I spent some time cutting out the chafed sections and splicing them back together. I know there's a chandlery at Hughtown, but better be safe than sorry, in case it's some time before I can get into the chandlery. Well, what a super evening it's turned into. I've just tried telephoning back to Shoreham to give a wish you were here message, but regrettably there's no signal showing on my Cellnet mobile. I'm going to stroll up to Higher Town on St Agnes, where I hope to get a signal. It's 1800 now and about 1 hour after low water. I prodded the sand at low water with my boat hook. I reckoned I had just about 1/3 of a metre to the keel at low water. I've decided not to be too late into bed tonight and will put my alarm on for 0500 to make sure I can remain close in at this anchorage. There's little or no risk this evening leaving my craft, Little Mullard, unattended in these pleasant conditions. So, I might just look into the Turk's Head for a pint or two. The plotter cursor positioned on Holmond Rocks and the plotter indicating we're almost halfway across St Mary's Road. Our track across St Mary's Road is 317 degrees true and 322 degrees magnetic. Sampson Hill on Briar is our mark to steer for when leaving St Mary's Pool. Beneath Sampson Hill, to the right of this yacht, we've now picked up the fragile starboard mark of Holman. Here's a nice telephoto shot of our destination, and we saw clearly Cromwell's Castle and the 16-metre Hangman Island. Be sure the summit of Sampson Hill bears 317 degrees true as you arrive. There are drying rocks to port, Nut Rock, Stony Island and Green Island. Also you have the shoals of Pepper Ledge to starboard. Keep the fragile starboard Holman mark fine on your starboard bow, on your track of 317 degrees true, 322 degrees magnetic. Also be ready to position yourself correctly for craft coming south, so that they can pass on their side of the channel. This is the dangerous 1.5 metre drying Nut Rock. Here the Potts Rock, just above the beam to starboard, and dries at 1.8 metres. And panning left to our destination again. Seen across more sharp rocks off Apple Tree Point. More tourists well wrapped up, hopefully enjoying the experience. This shot from Sampson Island South Hill, a beam to port, across the quarter past Garrison Hill St Mary's, a telephoto shot of our regularly seen chimney, concluding at Star Castle Hotel. Sampson North Hill, Castle Briar from the east-southeast and Works Point at the southern tip of Briar. Behind the mast, Sampson Hill and the Holman Mark. As we pull the camera shot back from our starboard mark, we can see the port hand mark of Little Rag Ledge. Here on the plotter you can see we've arrived at the shoals of Tresco Flats. The depth alarm should have already been set accordingly on the sounder. I have set the depth alarm currently at 5 metres. The depth at the moment just under 7 metres. We're getting quite good shelter now from Tresco Flats and Briar. Still holding our course of 317 degrees true. Our next course is 5 degrees true or 10 degrees magnetic. I'm now waiting my moment to alter to starboard. When you look at these two fragile marks on the charts, you will see they both should be rounded at about half a cable off. Remember, the marks are on the rocks. I've reset the depth alarm to 4 metres. These are Great Rag Ledge rocks, fine to port. Starboard easy now to bring the unlit port mark of Little Rag Ledge onto the port bow, and our new course of 10 degrees magnetic. Our starboard mark is lit. It supports a flashing green every 4 seconds light, but I really don't advise visitors making this passage in the dark.
There is a new gale warning issued today at 1500 GMT. Sea area Seoul, westerly gale force 8, expected soon. I say again, a new gale warning issued today at 1500 GMT. Sea area Seoul, westerly gale force expected soon. This is Falmouth Coast Guard.
We're putting our faith in Briar Island tonight to keep the Atlantic seas from what I reckon is going to be a fragile anchorage. However, if the wind does come westerly, that's a big improvement than northwesterly for Grimsby Sound. It's 16:10 now and about half hour before high water and 3 days before high water springs. So it's interesting to see the depths below my keel today. We've currently got just under 4 metres below the keel. I've brought my safe water alarm down to just over 2.5 metres. I will not be happy to bring it down any more. Right, port easy. We're coming round to 310 degrees magnetic and pointing again at Sampson Hill. As you'll see at our next chart work session, the depths should not get any less than they are now all the way across the flats. So long, of course, that we position ourselves correctly. Those not familiar with the charts might look around us now and say, what's all the fuss about that there's no shelter? But what they may not realise is that there's no water either towards low tide. So, unfortunately, in this location, what we gain in depth, we can often lose in shelter. While on this track towards Sampson Hill Briar, our destination is 4 points on the starboard bow. Over our port quarter now, the marks we have just navigated between, with St Mary's Pool in the distance beyond. Just 1 mile to go now to our destination. Starboard easy again, round to our next track of approximately 358 degrees true and 3 degrees magnetic. This alteration is affected when this track takes you midway between Plum Island and Merrick Island. Be very careful here. Have your binoculars in hand and check your compass. The Blue Hunter with local knowledge is passing west of Merrick Island, causing me to mistake Merrick Island with Plum Island. Couldn't understand why Hangman Island was ahead of me when it should have been about a point on my port bow. I'm currently heading far too close to Lubber's Rock and Great Crab's Ledge. So here's Merrick Island incorrectly to starboard, and over here now, just astern of the Blue Hunter, is Plum Island. At this angle, Plum Island disappears into the land mass behind. Always, if in doubt, stop and sort it out. The rocky contours here are far too steep for your shallow water alarm to save you. The lumpy rocks above the surface are likely to be just as lumpy below the surface. If you really don't trust your navigator in these waters, I suggest a member of the crew volunteers as a bow lookout, especially when in doubt of your position. A final look astern at our marks, and do bear in mind these may be changed for new ones when hopefully you pass this way in reality. A telephoto look ahead and a bleak view of our destination visitor buoys. We now have Hangman Island correctly on our port bow. Looking back over Tresco Flats, let's confirm all via another chart work session. We shall also be seeing some high ground shots of Tresco Flats at low water, viewed from Watch Hill here after landing on Briar via this wooden causeway. A brief location reminder: Sampson Island, Tresco, Briar, the Holman Rock and starboard mark, but until we see it clearly we put Sampson Hill on Briar right ahead. Here our destination, the visitors' buoys, just northwest of New Grimsby Harbour. We set off of course from St Mary's Pool. Remember, we used Sampson Hill to steer towards twice. Firstly crossing St Mary's Road, and secondly after rounding the port mark of Little Rag Ledge. So we can see clearly here en route over the flats. Moving in closer, we see again the Holman and Little Rag Ledge marks. On approach, craft must be aware and clear of Nut Rock and Pepper Ledge. First time navigators here need to be confident of suitable visibility for the transits, and average draft leisure visiting yachts are not recommended to cross until about 1 hour before high water. Remember not to hug these marks too close. They are marks on rocks, not floating buoys. As soon as you've cleared the starboard and port marks, head again for the summit of Sampson Hill. As you progress towards Sampson Hill, keep an eye out to starboard with your binoculars. Search out Merrick and Plum Islands, and when you can make a track of 358 degrees true or 3 degrees magnetic right through the centre of these islands, alter course onto that track. This will take you safely the last 9 cables to the southernmost buoys, just off New Grimsby Harbour Quay. Plan all your tracks in advance and plot them. There are few second chances if you get things wrong in the Scillies. Take little notice of other craft, they may lead you into trouble. Dividing my navigation with video work almost had me in trouble, mainly assuming the Blue Hunter was coming between Merrick and Plum Islands. Always double check with your compass and other marks that you do have things right. In my case, Hangman Island was making no sense at all by being on the wrong bow. If I hadn't realised in good time, I could have collided with rocks at Great Crab's Ledge. Here, I've leapt ashore and taken these shots from the top of Cromwell's castle towards low water. You can see clearly the shoals I could have come into contact with. As you see, no shoals in the fairway between the two islands. While atop of the tower, here's a nice shot over the entrance to the Sound from the north. By the way, while I think of it, do bring as much fresh water with you as you're able to when visiting the Scillies. The islands frequently are short of fresh water in the summer. It's almost low water now, still blowing a hooligan, and the girls of Briar and Tresco are out practising, not wanting to be beaten by the girls of St Mary's apparently. More sailors not being put off by the strong weather. I'm glad to see they're not heading out into the Atlantic. It is a bit lumpy out there. Plenty of spare boys today, and just as well. All the sensible visitors are going to come in the good weather. For day 9 on the testing Isles of Scilly.
And the shipping forecast issued by the Met Office at 05:05 on Sunday the 9th of June. There are warnings of gales in Seoul, Fastnet and Shannon. The general synopsis at 0100. Atlantic low moving slowly east, expected rockall 987 by 0100 tomorrow. The area forecast for the next 24 hours. White Portland, southwesterly 4, increasing 5 to 7, rain and squally showers, moderate or good. Plymouth, southerly veering westerly 5 to 7, rain and squally showers, moderate or good. Biscay, southwest veering west 5 to 7, decreasing 4 in south, rain or showers. From Colwyn Bay to Mullock Tyre, including Rockwood.
At this mooring, I discarded anti-chafing knots and round turns for lines adjustable up on deck. On several occasions, during the day and the night, I tried tightening and slackening the buoy to make for a quieter and more comfortable time. I must admit, whatever I tried made little difference. As you saw, wind against tide in the early hours was quite dramatic too. I'm of course not trying to put you off coming, but trying to be sure you are ready for the challenge. Again, I say, come for the challenge, not necessarily the pleasure. On my 18 days here, I did spend some very nice days, and they balanced out the rough ones. The video possibly makes the islands look a bit... Well, there goes Firethorn. You'll remember in our last chart work session why she kept up close in to Shipman Head. We're coming to the end of Isles of Scilly Part 1, and hopefully it will be the start or confirmation of a new challenge for you, your crew or your club. There are those that set off on round the world yacht races and single-handed challenges, but to do this you mostly need much time and even vast sponsorship. If you're a boating enthusiast looking to do something exciting once or twice in a lifetime, may I suggest the Isles of Scilly Challenge may well be your answer. I've said it before in my videos and I'll say it again. There are frequent lengthy sections of long distance sailing that can be very boring. But I can assure you that the passage to and about the Scillies will never be boring. For those that remain in doubt if to come or to stay away, perhaps the purchase of my DVD, Isles of Scilly 2, will be necessary to finalise your decision. In Part 2, we shall be talking to harbour officials at St Mary's and here at New Grim Harbour. The navigation includes the passage to Bishop Rock Lighthouse and north about navigating south into Grimsby Sound, then north about again round to St Helens Pool, then Tees Sound, St Martin's, and back south to Hewtown, St Mary's. As indicated earlier, a chat with the skipper of Pt5 and a greeting from the staff at Vine Cafe over in Briar. A second Tele-pilot DVD for those wanting further navigation and advice. There's some shots ashore too, both in the town and in the country. Most modern craft on the marinas today are both suitable and capable to complete the passage to and about the Scillies. I hope this DVD has provided enough information to either go for it or sensibly to stay away until obtaining the confidence and knowledge eventually to go for it. A passage to and about the Scillies, power or sail, is a great challenge and experience, and within the reach of so many now that Tele-pilot has put you well into the picture. I have stated clearly in this DVD that the craft must be up to the challenge, but the success of the voyage is also down to the skipper, knowing his or her navigation and seamanship and making the right decisions at the right time. There goes the Firethorn on the edge of the Atlantic, surely providing her passengers with quite a ride. One moment on the crest and the next way down in the trough. I have to smile as I remember reading the publicity of the Blue Hunter. What did it say? Never mind the weather, any island, any day, any time. And even offering morning coffee, lunch and cream teas.